the main trials, the cardiovascular of the main cardiovascular drugs. And here, when we compare these two EMPA-REG outcome trial, so empagliflozin was able to show the same kind of benefits that were seen with the other drugs in reducing cardiovascular death, hospitalization for heart failure, or all-cause mortality. And as we know that there was 38% relative risk reduction in the cardiovascular death, and it was early and sustained in case of the EMPA-REG outcome trial. And these benefits, this 38% risk reduction was contributed by all kinds of contributed by the CV death, not only the heart failure related death, fatal stroke, fatal MI, sudden death, and presumed CV death. So this is a particular table which is showing the baseline characteristics of the SGLT2 inhibitor trials from 2015 to 2020. So recently the VERTIS-CV trial was out, and here if we compare the median duration of follow in the EMPA-REG outcome trial was 3.1 years as compared to VERTIS-CV where it was 3 years. And other similarities are that percentage of patients with established CVD was almost 100% in both these trials. And the patients, the percentage of people who had EGFR of less than 60 was 25.9% in the EMPA-REG outcome trial, and it was 21.9% in the VERTIS-CV trial. And the percentage of patients with history of heart failure was different. So this was 10.1%. However, in contrast, it was higher and 23.7% in the VERTIS-CV trial. So if you look at the outcomes, the MACE outcomes, if you see, they were not significant, they were not consistent benefit found across all these trials. And for CV death outcomes, again, only EMPA-REG outcome trial showed a 38% reduction in the CV death. And also, if we look at the same data with the EMPA-REG outcome trial showing 38% reduced risk. And hospitalization for heart failure, again, it is consistent across all the trials. The kidney outcome trials, generally, they have shown a benefit across all the trials, but for the VERTIS-CV trial, however, the benefit was favoring the treatment, but it was not statistically significant. So for all-cause mortality as well, only the EMPA-REG outcome trial showed a 32% relative risk reduction, and the DAPA-HF trial showed a 17% relative risk reduction. However, CANVAS program, Declaratively 58, and CREDENCE program, they had a non-significant result. So, sir, if I may ask Dr. Raghuskaran, how would you like to summarize the evidences of CVOTs from SGLT2 inhibitors, and where would you place the VERTIS-CV in this context?
That's one, probably we thought SGLT inhibitors have a class effect. Only this VERTIS-CV trial shows that it is not a class effect. Because though EMPA-REG 100% of the patient or ACVD patient were included in that study, and there is 38% relative reduction. Whereas in VERTIS-CV trial, same ACVD patients are included, but benefit is not significant. But this American study, I don't know whether racial difference is there or no, I don't know. And this eretoflux, what is this drug? It's a new drug, I think.
Etugliflozin.
Eretofluprazone is not. This is probably we don't know whether this benefit is due to a class effect or due to a drug effect. Probably there may be some minor variation. ACVD, there is almost 88% reduction. There is no reduction in this VERTIS-CV trial. Whereas DAPA-HF also, in patient with established cardiovascular disease, established heart failure, there is significant reduction in heart failure, hospitalization, and mortality reduction in there in non-diabetic group. That is the difference. In DAPA-HF, almost 60% of the patients are not diabetic who got heart failure with reduced ejection fraction. Only 40% of the patient had heart failure in a diabetic group. In both the group, there is a reduction in the hospital admission for heart failure, and also there is almost 70% relative reduction in mortality. I don't know, I cannot explain this. I think our endocrinologist should explain this, the difference in this. What is
Sir, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, can I, Dr. Smita?
Yes, sir.
With Raghu sir permission, actually. So, see, I would like to say that this particular the etugliflozin from EMERC is not available in the Indian scenario per se. It is available in the Western scenario and the European scenario and the rest of the world. It is available. And there is one more which is not mentioned in the slides. That is the sotagliflozin, which has got the SGLT1 and SGLT2 inhibition. In fact, that's a better gliflozin. We need to wait and watch for that sotagliflozin. And it was from Sanofi and Lexicon. Later on, they had a divorce actually. The Sanofi and Lexicon got divorced. And there is one more gliflozin in this list, that is bexagliflozin is also there in the pipeline, which is showing the best results. But to tell you very honestly, there is a nice glycemic reduction seen in the Asian population, especially the Indian population, with the SGLT2 inhibitors and the DPP4 inhibitors when compared to the Western scenario, that is either the Americans or the Europeans. We don't find that much of HbA1c reduction per se, like they find 0.3% to 0.6% of HbA1c reduction with particularly this DPP4 inhibitors, whereas we find somewhere around some 0.6 to 1% of A1c reduction with DPP4 inhibitors in Indians, because the receptors are so active and they respond well to our probably the ethnicity and the race, and then still the unexplained mechanisms. And coming to this the Vertis CV trial, and though it could not show the benefits with regards to the 3-point MACE, I think heart failure and all, the more number of heart failure patients were included in the Vertis CV trial, and overall it's a disappointing results that were rolled out from Vertis CV, which are not at par with the other classical the SGLT2 inhibitors. The class effect, which has definitely has shown a reduction in the 3-point MACE, is a particular reduction in the heart failure, or the particular reduction in the hospitalization for the heart failure. When compared to that, I think it's a disappointing result. So where Dr. Raghu sir aptly said, we need to conflict with the either it's the class effect or the particular effect, drug effect of etugliflozin is yet to be studied. And once this comes to our country, we need to go for our own trials based on the ethnicity and the race, and the inclusion criteria and the exclusion criteria may give a different result. And as of now, we are not in a certainty like that this is going to cause this much of this and all. So let's wait and watch. And one more thing I would like to mention in this context, actually, to all my this thing, especially the Johnson and Johnson people are jumping with joy. And today only the US FDA has taken away the black box warning of canagliflozin, that it causes the lower limb extremity amputations, that is called LLEA. Lower limb extremity amputations was seen as a drug effect, not as a class effect of SGLT2 inhibitors. That was seen in CANVAS and CANVAS-R, and with this particular canagliflozin, either the grade 2 amputation or the half foot amputation or the above ankle amputation or the below knee amputation or the above knee amputation, total put together we call it as lower limb extremity amputation was there, and till yesterday it was in the black box warning, and yesterday only US FDA had removed that, and probably it's a good news for the prescribers of canagliflozin, either the Invokana, the 100 milligram or 300 milligram. And anything to add, Raghu sir would, I request Raghu sir, if anything I missed out.
No, you have covered everything.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
It's my pleasure,
In the
Smita.
interest of time, we'll just go ahead fast, sir.
Yeah, please.
So this is the EMPA-HEART study, which was the first confirmatory evidence of tangible mechanistic cardiac benefit with an SGLT2 inhibitor agent in patients of type 2D with significant CAD. So, and here you can see that the adjusted mean reduction in LVMI with empagliflozin was 3.4 gram per meter square, and in patients with higher baseline LVMI of more than 60 gram per meter square, this benefit was even greater, and it was 7.3 gram per meter square reduction. So the clinical implications of this particular study are that this is the first confirmatory evidence, and since 90% of them did not have any heart failure in these patients, so there is a plausible cardiac benefit in CAD patients without heart failure, and this benefit was seen as early as 6 months of therapy, and it was not dependent on the preload or the afterload. It suggests that there could be a direct effect at the level of left ventricular myocardium. So if I may ask Dr. Raghu sir, what are the clinical implications of this? Is it important, the EMPA-HEART study finding for clinical practice?
Definitely it's important. No, that this is the new data. Probably that's what we are thinking. By reducing BP, it is going to regress left ventricular hypertrophy. That was our concept. Probably most of the antihypertensive drugs, whether ARBs, ACE inhibitors, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, they cause LV regression by reduction of the blood pressure. So when this probably SGLT inhibitors now in non-diabetic group, probably diabetes, there is an evidence for regression of and hypertrophy, LV mass index. That's a good. This one we don't know what is the implication of this. Whether going to reduce the cardiovascular events, whether postpone the development of heart failure. That we have to see. What are the implications? We have to find out in the future.
So thank you so much, sir. In the interest of time, I'll just quickly go through the new updates. So this is the Emperor trial, Emperor Reduce trial top line results, which showed that empagliflozin meets the primary endpoint in reducing the risk of cardiovascular death or hospitalization of heart failure in phase 3 trials in adults with type 2 DM and without diabetes. And also the patients had the eGFR of up to 20 ml per minute per 1.73 meters squared. So this is another study. This is the real world study, the EMPRISE study, where the effectiveness and safety of empagliflozin in routine care patients was studied. So this was a poster presentation, and this was the interim results. So we know that EMPRISE real world study, it was rigorously matched to minimize the potential of bias, and more than 140 variables were actually matched. That is called the 1:1 propensity score matching. And here you can see that almost 28% of the patients actually had cardiovascular disease, which means the rest of the 72% of them did not have cardiovascular disease. In spite of this factor, if you look at the results, it was seen that there was a 41% reduced risk in the heart failure hospitalization broad, and also there was a 48% relative reduction in the all-cause mortality. And in the same EMPRISE study, this is for the older adults where more than 65-year-old patients were taken. And in these patients, they tried to see whether there is any all-cause mortality benefit. And it was seen that it was 48% reduction. And also the heart failure hospitalization broad was reduced by 43%. And this was again the previous study, the EMPRISE real world evidence that had come out some time back. Here, the empagliflozin is being compared to that of sitagliptin, and it was shown that there was a 49% reduction in the risk of heart failure hospitalization when compared to that of sitagliptin. And this benefit was seen even in those patients who did not have cardiovascular history or in patients who did not have a heart failure history. And this is also another study, again, Scandinavian real-world evidence data from more than 59,000 patients, which showed that SGLT2 inhibitors, when compared to DPP4 inhibitors, it caused a 58% lower risk of serious renal events when compared to DPP4 inhibitors. So here the hazard ratio is 0.42, which turns out to be a 58% relative risk reduction. So, Dr. Seipuri sir, if I may ask you, what do you think of these real-world evidences?
Yeah, yes, it's a wonderful question, in fact. And we have seen the way back, dating back to the EMPA-REG and the EMPA-REG outcome, and the EMPRISE, and the EMPA-HEART, and the latest one, the Emperor HREF also, which was recently rolled out actually. The phase 3 clinical trials were rolled out in Minneapolis. And I would like to talk about this particular EMPRISE, the real world evidence. The EMPRISE is nothing but the empagliflozin comparative effectiveness and the safety trial, which was done with the empagliflozin was compared with that of the DPP4 inhibitor sitagliptin 100 milligram, where it has got the real world evidence is so robust and has got the credible propensity matching, suggesting the 48% the lowering risk of all-cause mortality with empagliflozin when compared to the DPP4 inhibitor, the sitagliptin 100 milligram. Thus, that suggests the consistent results are seen with the routine care with the randomized controlled studies, and the Emprise has taken the number of population was 78,000, and the cardiovascular benefits were seen when compared to the sitagliptin. The empagliflozin showed the 41% of the reduction in the HHF, that is hospitalization for the heart failure, and the 48% in the all cause mortality reduction was seen with this particular the empagliflozin, because it is known to reduce the atherosclerotic cardiovascular events, let it be 3-point MACE or the HHF, and the 49% of risk of heart failure hospitalization when compared to the sitagliptin, and even the 58% reduction was seen with this particular this Emprise empagliflozin when it is related to the renal events actually. So see, we have to see, I used to say all the time the statins, and everybody said statins are the wonder drugs of the decade, probably the century, and after insulin, statins are the wonder drugs, and we called it a pleiotropic drug because of its diversified mechanisms, starting from lowering the LDLC to improving the endothelial sensitivity, stabilization of the plaque, and the inhibition of the thrombus in the block in the stents, and after PCI. So after that we said metformin is a pleiotropic drug because you name a indication, it is there. Pre-diabetes, metformin. Diabetes, metformin. Even in type 1 diabetes, there is a role of metformin. You take PCOS, metformin. Insulin resistance, metformin. Parkinson's disease, metformin. And this particular even the senile dementia, the pre-senile dementia, the Alzheimer's, you have a role of metformin. We used to call that a pleiotropic drug. And now we should call these SGLT2 inhibitors the number one pleiotropic drug with so much of wide varieties of actions on the metabolic effects, and not only the weight reduction, not only the glucose lowering, not only the reduction in the 3-point MACE, not only reduction in the heart failure, and it is shown to be beneficial. And there is a new term that has emerged, the hepatogenous diabetes. That is, the importance is not much given to the liver in diabetes. Now it is coming into limelight, and everybody started looking at the what makes the liver bad in diabetes, or what makes the liver bad in diabetes. So the hepatogenic diabetes is the emerging new term actually. And it has got SGLT2 is got a role in particularly even in this particular aspect, apart from the standard metformin, and pioglitazone has got a role in reducing the hepatic parameters also. And SGLT2, they have got a role in the so-called the NAFLD and the NASH, which may progress on to in diabetes if left untreated without any the lifestyle modifications and the weight reduction, and it may progress even to the cirrhosis and to the hepatocellular carcinoma. So I would like to say by concluding that SGLT2 inhibitors are the wonder drugs of this particular the decade or maybe the century, and we need to get so many things from this SGLT2 inhibitors in the future. I am so optimistic. Anything to add from Raghu sir?
Sir, you have forgotten obesity especially.
Sir, that's what
It's a wonderful-
weight reduction, sir. 3 to 4 kilos of 3 to 4 kilos of weight every patient we are seeing. The by default it goes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, we have already crossed our time. So, sir, any Dr. Raghu sir,